Hey, this is Shane Morton. You're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. Tune in if you want some good wrestling information about pro wrestling. These guys are doing it right.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South. And I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card. Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheik, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Clinton Charisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at Steve Bowtie Bryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. And today we got an awesome show. But first, I want to introduce my brother from the same father and mother. What's up, Jut? How you doing today, Plastic Sheik?
I'm good, brother. Good to be on here with you and excited to get this interview.
Yeah, man. We got Shane Morton on the show today. Shane is an old buddy of mine. He's actually a mentor of mine, but he was a great friend to me out in the Nashville wrestling scene. He booked me a lot. He had a promotion in Columbia, Tennessee called the CWA that he had run off and on for years, and actually had some ties to Jerry Jarrett, which was awesome. He always had, good stories to tell me about Jerry. But Shane and I actually worked together for the first time in the SAW, Southern All-Star Wrestling in Millersville, Tennessee. And there was this gimmick that I learned working with Jerry Lawler where I would casually have my hand just under the ropes, just sitting on the, ring, and I would turn around and like jaw at the crowd. And what that would do is that would allow Lawler, or in this case, Shane Morton, to come up and do a little stomp on my fingers. Now, it didn't hurt, but you would have thought he killed me, and it was just like a subtle little thing. And I almost feel like that set me and Shane up for life there, because it was some little trick that he knew that I was smart to, and he took advantage of that. And, honestly, he's got such a great mind for the business, and he's definitely one of my favorite people to talk to and get a hold of. Anyway, that was just such a cool little deal, and it was small, but the crowd ate it up. It was so fun.
Yeah, man, sometimes it's the little things in wrestling that it can really set you apart. You think sometimes these big dives people do to the outside, or we know how I feel about those, but or just the spot where everybody has to make sure they're in place and stand there like they're dazed for 20 seconds. That's considered a big spot. Well, sometimes those big spots don't get over to me, but the little details sometimes mean more to me.
I mean, yeah, exactly. The little details, that's what it's all about. It's all in the details. If you get all those details across, then it truly turns into something big. And that, he truly taught me so much, but he honestly vouched for me. I remember sitting there and he was talking with the guy in the back, and actually it was Hammerjack. And Hammerjack and I barely knew each other at the time. And Shane is sitting there, and Shane and Hammerjack were about to work a match. And Shane was like, here's my manager Jimmy, and talking, and he's putting all these little things, these little spots in for me. And Hammerjack was like, your boy pretty good? Is he smart? Does he know what he's doing? And Shane was like, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing. And after that, Hammerjack and I clicked. And there were just so many other guys, Boogie Woogie, so many other guys that I got to know that respected me because I worked with Shane. So it was like, Shane knows what he's doing. Then it turned Jimmy knows what he's doing. And man, he really helped me out a lot with that. A lot of people respect Shane. Shane's done a lot for the business, especially in that area. He also does a lot for the old timers. And man, seriously, he is so respectful and so mindful of the guys from out there that came before him. And he actually runs a Right Way reunion that is out there in Middle Tennessee, sometimes Columbia, sometimes Lynchburg. I think this year it's in Lynchburg. I'm definitely going to ask him about that. And, Shane also is always one step away from opening up a new promotion. So hopefully we get to talk to him about that. He's always one step away from running his own promotion again. And whenever he does that, he is automatically 350 people in the building. It's a guarantee because the Morton name, not only being Ricky Morton, but also Shane, Steve, his brother, Bubba, his younger brother, Cody, his son, David is Steve's son, Jerry Lynn's his daughter, that troublemaker. So many people out there respect the Morton name. That Morton name really carries a lot of respect. And I think that's something you'll see coming up in this interview with him. He's honestly just such a great guy. And I can't wait for you to meet him officially. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, I'm excited. Anybody that's good to my brother, I'm good with, man. So,
well, ditto. He's always bugging me to come out there to the Right Way reunion. It is a haul, so it would be something that we would have to make happen, but we definitely need to go out there. And if we ever do, when we make it out there, we got to take a microphone with us and we got to take a recorder, because I'm sure we would be plenty of interviews that we could get there that day. That would be huge for the podcast too. So whenever we can make that happen, you and me will jump in a car and we'll make it out there sometime. We'll see old Cash Ross down the street while we're out there, old Colossus himself. So. But anyway, so, the previous week's episode we did a quick one. It was just called the Mount Rushmore of Wrestling Feuds. Y'all, really appreciate y'all responding so well with that. The numbers are great. Definitely appreciate that. Can't wait to, do some more Mount Rushmore episodes. But we'll be right back with Mr. TNT, my buddy and very good friend of the show, Mr. Shane Morton, after these messages.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
If you're a fan of rock music, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to check out my podcast. It's called the Decibel Geek Podcast. We've been doing it for about 10 years now. We talk about Kiss. We talk about Ozzy. We talk about Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Metallica. We talk about all the legends from the 60s and on, up to brand new bands that you should be hearing about today that you're not going to hear on the radio. It's Decibel Geek. Wherever you find your podcasts, you'll find us there. If you love rock and roll, I can almost guarantee you're going to love my show.
All right, we are back with more from Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. And today, y'all, man, I am so excited about today's guest. This guy, I've texted him back and forth, honestly saying, when you want to come on the show? And he would say anytime. And I would say, when you want to come on the show? And he would say anytime. And then finally, I'm getting my old friend, honestly, a mentor to me, one of my favorite pro wrestlers that I've ever known, and honestly, just a really great dude, my favorite Morton, Mr. TNT, Shane Morton. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, Jimmy. It's good to hear from you. Glad to come on here, man. I've listened to your podcast in the past. Man, y'all throw out good tons of information to the people. You're bringing back the pro wrestling the way it should be brought back. And man, I commend both of you and Jared both on that. Y'all do an awesome job, man. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Shane. That means a lot, dude. That really does, man. I mean every word I just said, too, buddy. That really means a lot. So, Jared, I'm going to let you take it off from the start here.
Hey, Shane, this is Jared. And I always have a question I like to ask every pro wrestler, and it's kind of a question that, it's been asked of several people, but I always like to know. It lets me know where you're at as far as how you view like wrestlers and everything like that. What is your like Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers? Like the pro wrestlers that you just, they either inspired you, mentored you or whatever that you have such reverence for, that they're like, these are the top 4 guys. And I even give a 5th one to all the people, so you could have a 5th one if you need to.
Well, one of my top that I was always a Hill fan growing up. I always liked the Hills.
Yeah.
So, it was just, to me, Ric Flair back in the day, I mean, he was just, the man, he said it many times, to be the man, you got to beat the man. He was the man for me when I was a kid coming up. It was like, you didn't get much better than Ric Flair. Another one, and I know everybody's going to say, oh, he said that because he's kin to it. Ricky Morton. Man, to be a babyface, if you wanted to learn to be a babyface, watch Ricky. Watch Ricky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And, man, this is probably a surprise to a lot of people. Lawler, man, to me, Lawler, you didn't get much better than Lawler in Memphis, man, back in the day.
Yeah,
and,
man.
And I guess my favorite, Flair was really good back in the day, but my favorite per se local, regional kind of person, but he went on to be worldwide too, Eddie Gilbert. Man, I loved Eddie Gilbert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Man, he was so way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And, man, he just had a mind, and it just some of the stuff, they did in Memphis. I know they took turns sharing the books or whatever, but a lot of that great stuff, the feud with Lawler, Eddie come up with most of that, It was just, he was an awesome individual.
We do a series on our show here randomly that will be like, what if? And we want to do a deep dive of what if, Eddie had not passed and where he would have landed and what he would have ended up. I mean, honestly, I would see him being a big time executive at one of the major companies today, if he could stand it,
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But, my wild card, 5th one, would be Barry Windham. I thought he was always underrated. Man, Barry Windham was great.
Very underrated. Yeah, very underrated and very talented, and just it looks so easy to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, everything he did just looked so smooth, and he was. Some people may say differently that worked him. I never had the opportunity to work him, but man, he just looked so smooth in the ring. Everything he did just looked like it was just spot on. And it's like, wow, so he would be my wild card or my 5th person,
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
I love those picks, man. It's, Eddie Gilbert, as little as I remember, but I do remember watching him when I was growing up, but I always was, thought he was a great talent out there. And Barry Windham, he's just great. And the first 3 you had, they're legendary in my mind. So if anybody doesn't like those 3, they need to tune into a different show.
All 5, honestly.
Well, I mean, all 5 of them.
Yes. People may disagree with you on Flair right now, but back in the day, Flair, late 70s, 80s, even early 90s, you couldn't get much better than Flair.
No,
he drew money. He drew big money.
Yeah. That's the goal, right? Drawing money. I mean, that's the goal.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I had Flair and Hogan in my list. So people want to disagree with that. I mean, but Hogan was so instrumental when I was a kid of the 80s. So, Hogan's not the greatest worker of all time, but he just was. If it wasn't for Hulk Hogan, like, I wouldn't have been the fan I am of wrestling. I mean, so that's why I have him on my list. But people might disagree with that for reasons, but that's okay too.
Well, Hogan was not the great worker that. By no means. Hogan knew how to market himself. Absolutely. Sometimes you just got to know how to market yourself and make yourself look better, and the people that you're in the ring with make you look better. And Absolutely. Hogan was a mastermind of marketing himself and making himself look good and doing all the right things. And you're right, as far as money, he was one of the biggest draws for money-wise, because, it was just say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and all that, and just fell in the mainstream. And Cyndi Lauper comes along, and he really helped bring wrestling into the mainstream that it is today. Without Hogan, I don't think you would have. I think it would still be big, but I don't think it would have been mainstream, like it was in the 80s without him in it.
Totally agree with that. Well, enough about all them. I want to talk about Shane Morton now. So with Shane Morton, I want to know, where were you born? Where are you from, Shane?
Actually, I'm born in Columbia, Tennessee, just, about 40 miles south of Nashville.
Yeah. And what school did you go to? Where'd you graduate high school and all that?
Well, actually, my mom and dad divorced when I was young, and my mom moved to Murfreesboro, and I moved to Murfreesboro, and I graduated from Laverne High School.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did you play any sports at all in high school?
Oh, yeah. A funny story about that, my junior high school football coach, I played football, basketball, ran track, baseball, you name it. I played just anything I could do just to, to get into extracurricular activities after school and things, And, but my junior high school football coach still stays in contact with me and a few of the guys, texts us every day, man.
That's awesome.
He was just he was a great mentor, man. And he's the one that told us, when he was a big wrestling fan too, and everybody had a wrestling name, of course they called my brother and I the Rock and Roll Express. We was always the Rock and Roll Express. And then we had the British Bulldog that was on the team. And, we just had different ones that was all on the team. And that's what the coach always called us. But yeah, he was a great mentor. He said, man, what do you want to do? What do you see yourself doing when you get out of school? No, without a hesitation, I want to be a professional wrestler. That's what I'm going to do. He said, well, you better work hard at it, and you can't give up. Always push yourself. And just never give up. Keep working. Yeah. And that's where I took the mentality. I'm going to do this regardless. We had career days in school and everything. There was a few people I went to school with, and I want to be a wrestler. Well, the only ones that ever became a wrestler that I went to school with was funny story, and you may know him. My brother did, and myself. Mean Mike Woods went to school with Mean Mike Woods back in the day. Went to school with him. He's a former NWA Mid America champion. Went to school with him, and a couple of guys you may not know, Stunning Steve Lane and Chris Gatlin. I went to school with those guys.
I'm familiar with Chris Gatlin. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's awesome, man. You got a crew of guys there that's like a 4 horsemen at your high school, basically. Well, you count your brother, so that's a 5 horsemen. Right. So obviously you're talking like you're being called the Rock and Roll Express. There's a British Bulldog on your football team and stuff. When did you become a wrestling fan? When do you remember becoming a fan?
Man, ever since I was a kid, they used to hold weekly matches in Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
Christine
Legendary.
The Jarrett's did.
Yeah.
Yep, the Jarrett's held matches down there. Had an old Kwanzaa hut. And believe it or not, I talked to Jerry Jarrett before he passed. We talked about the old Kwanzaa hut. I said, I'd really like to get in there because there was some old wrestling stuff still left in the Kwanzaa hut. But when they were holding matches there, man, and they would break for intermission, my brother and I being 3 and 4 years old, we'd go get in the ring and wrestle. They wouldn't run you out of the ring. We'd be wrestling. Right. We'd keep wrestling until the guys started coming to the ring. They start playing music. And boy, we'd take off running in because we knew the bad guys were about to come out. So we got out of the way. But I just grew up around the wrestling business, with Ricky being in wrestling. And I had another uncle that wrestled. His name was Jerry Morton. And he wrestled back in the 60s and 70s. My wife now, her father, which is my father-in-law, he was a wrestler back in the 70s. So, I kind of grew up around it, and knew that was something I was very passionate about and loved the sport of wrestling and always wanted to do that.
Well, you can tell. I mean, you guys have it naturally. So, talk a little bit about that. Virginia, your wife, her father, his name was Steve, correct?
Yeah,
Steve Thompson. And then talk about him. So did he only wrestle in the 70s? Because I've seen pictures that look like he was even back in the 60s maybe too.
He signed a big major contract with the Jarretts back in the 70s, and it was a big ordeal, and for Columbia, a guy from Columbia. And he was larger than life, man. He was what you would see today as far as bodybuilder, the bodybuilder type guys.
Yeah.
And man, he really didn't work out a whole lot, believe it or not. But he was just Yeah, he was just a natural, just big guy. And, he wrestled till 1975. And then Virginia, right after Virginia was born, he stopped wrestling and went into law enforcement. But, yeah, Eddie Marlin started training him back in the day. And but, yeah, so like I said, I grew up around wrestling, my whole life. With Ricky and Jerry and then my cousin Freddie and, and then Steve and myself and then Bubba and then our sons, Cody and David and Jerry Lynn. And, my daughter, Jerry Lynn, got into it.
How are you related to Ricky exactly?
We are second cousins. Ricky and my dad are first cousins. Yep.
Okay. So that's the Morton name. That's how the Morton, you're both men. So your dads took the name and then brought it to y'all. That makes total sense. And then, of course, we know Freddie Morton, longtime promoter down in Columbia. Talk about him a little bit.
Well, Freddie started wrestling. Freddie was always a big guy. Freddie was a pretty good sized boy. When he was in high school, he was about 6'1" and about 245 pounds at 15 years old. So he started wrestling when he was 15 years old. And he traveled around quite a bit, and he wrestled a lot in Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Kentucky, Tennessee. Man, he did that probably about 10 years and figured out that, I think I want to promote more than I want to wrestle. So he got into the promoting side of it. And so when he got into the promoting side, long story short, I started training with Dutch Mantell and The Undertaker. And when I started training with those guys in Nashville, and they left, went to WCW. And then I started training with Dundee a little bit, and he left, and just went to different schools, the Jarrett School quite a bit, and ended up shutting down. And a guy named Chris Kern broke me into the business and was training me a little bit. And Freddie started promoting a little bit in the 90s, like 90, 91, 90, 91. He was helping somebody else promote in 90, and they needed a referee and wanted to know if I would ref. And I started out refereeing, and then I progressed into wrestling and started with Freddie Morton wrestling, and then had a breakup with some promoters, and one went one way and one went the other way, and I ended up leaving with some other guys, Tommy Higgin and those guys. I went with them and started wrestling with them on a regular basis, and man, the rest is history. And Tommy Higgin was a great, most underrated wrestler that I believe I know. Oh, man, he was such a great guy. And man, he made a lot of people in this area look like $1 million, and I was one of them. Yeah. He deserves so much credit that he never gets, if that makes sense. I went with them, and next, they had the Wild Boys, Ben Jordan and Steve Neely, coming along, and they were about to do their thing and finish, go different ways. And Ben was leaving to go to Global, and ended up becoming the global light heavyweight champion. They needed somebody to fill in that tag team, so it kind of went to my brother and I, and we took off. And man, it's been one heck of a rocket ship.
That's awesome.
Shane, who was your first match with?
Well, the first match, it was kind of a gimmick match. It was Mike Samples, Flash Flanagan, and Misty Lane. They were taking on Freddie Morton and the Sheik, Jordan Weingroff, and myself. And I was a referee, doing it as a referee that night. That was the very first match that I worked as a wrestler. And they said, we want you to wrestle and you referee stuff. I said, okay, that's fine. And I did. And then it just took off from there. And so many people, it caused a riot because they got heat on me, beat the crap out of me. And it ended up causing a riot. And they said, oh, well, we can't just put him back referee. And now we gotta use him as a wrestler. So that's kind of how I started out.
Well, that's pretty good. Your first try, you get a riot. Yeah. I mean, there's guys that never get riots.
Yeah, it was wild. It got wild that night.
So that was you were a referee, and that was technically your first match and your first gimmick, essentially, right? I mean,
I didn't referee in some, and that was the first they put me into it as a wrestler. I was wrestling that night.
Gotcha.
But they wanted me to wrestle as a referee. Kind of like Danny Davis for the WWE did, had the striped outfit made and all, but they just wanted me to wrestle that one night in the referee outfit, and I did. And like I said, it caused such a commotion that they we can't. We just gonna have to put him out there as a wrestler now. So
you just named some awesome names. I just interviewed George Weingroff on the Wolfie D show. What a great dude, and what an interesting show. He actually told us a funny story about it was Gypsy Joe and Freddie Morton in a match, and Gypsy got a little hot in that one. Were you there, or do you remember that match at all?
Oh yeah, it got wild. Gypsy, I thought Gypsy was going to kill Freddie.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
Wow. Yeah, it was brutal. I heard.
Yeah, George is no one to turn your back on there either. George could hurt you and tie you up quickly if he wanted to.
Yeah, very much a shooter. One of the real shooters.
Yes.
What was that first promotion called that you worked for?
Mid-South Wrestling Alliance.
Okay, gotcha. And again, you said who was running that one?
Well, Freddie was running that show at the time. Freddie Morton and Thurman Dolan.
Got it. Okay. So, and then talk about you and Steve. I mean, you and Steve, if you were like me and Jared, my brother here, he and I have essentially been a tag team since we were kids. You know what I mean? And I can imagine that you and Steve, and that's what makes brother tag teams so good. When, of course, my brother and I are not trained as professional wrestlers, and you and Steve obviously have that training. And I've seen many matches where y'all worked well and awesome together. But talk about that process of okay, look, we're now a tag team together. It's an official tag team. We're not just rolling in the ring during intermission and stuff. Talk about that and how that worked out. Was it just an automatic gel experience there, or were there some bumps in the road?
No, we gelled well together because we grew up together and pretty much raised each other. We had a kind of rough upbringing there, and stuck it out together, and of course we played sports together, and everything we did together, and so we kind of looked out for each other. So that he and I, Chris Champion was the one that put us together, wanted us to wrestle, because therefore when I first started wrestling, I wrestled Steve quite a bit, because they was like, well, let's get you used to wrestling somebody who you would feel comfortable with. So they just stuck me with Steve, and we wrestled each other quite a bit. And man, Chris was like, no, we're going to put you together. We're going to call y'all the Marvelous Mortons. And I'm like, okay, that's what you want to do. And so so we kind of dropped the Marvelous name and just became the Morton Brothers, and but we always gelled really well together. I guess, just being that brotherly instinct. Bubba and I gelled real well together too. Bubba, my younger brother there, and we gelled really good together. We did real well together too, but not as good as Steve and I did. Steve and I was just more natural than Bubba. Bubba's a little younger, a little bit, thinks outside the box a little more than, hey, I want to try this. And he might want to get into the crazy stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm not into that.
You just described Bubba very well, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we gelled really well together. Towards the end of my career, that when I was finishing up, I did a lot more with Bubba than I did Steve, because Steve was, got really heavily involved in baseball and stuff with his kids, and ended up running the league in Murfreesboro and stuff. So he was taking a lot of time off, and Bubba and I were doing a lot of stuff together. So, Bubba was with me when I ran into one of our mutual friends, old Sheik Omar there. Bubba was with me when I was having dealings with Omar,
I know. Here's the thing. He actually tried to send me a PayPal to not do this interview, Shane. Did you know that? He said he heard that I was trying to interview you, and he actually tried to send me money. It was actually 10 camels, 3 pretty wives, and 2 of his ugly wives. And he was going to send them all to me. Yeah,
it took me forever to get rid of that camel that he gave me. It took me forever to get rid of a camel with 2 humps.
I know, that was the weirdest camel ever. I don't get it. But anyway, nobody's ever looking for a camel with 2 humps, are they? That's just No. So we've been talking a little bit about like Bubba, Steve. We brought up your daughter Jerry Lynn, Cody, everybody. How many Mortons are there? Not counting Ricky. I'm talking just directly close to you. Now, I know Ricky's related to you, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. With just related to me, close proximity, there's Jerry, which is, we call him Bud. That was Freddie's daddy. Then Freddie. Then me, Steve, Jerry Lynn, Cody, my oldest son, Justin, Bubba, Brandon, David, my sister Jennifer, Jerry Lynn. I think I got them all.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I got all of them.
Every time,
not including Ricky and Carrie.
Because that adds another 20 or 30, right, with Ricky. I'm just kidding. But anyway, I always joked that the Mortons are multiplying because, Shane would work in a promotion, and then here would come Steve, and then here would come Cody or Dave. And I was out there working when Cody was just coming in the business and David was just coming in the business. But it was always something that you clearly looked out for family. And that's something that really I respect about you, is that you really did your best. So like if you saw opportunities that you could bring in your family to work, I mean, there's nothing, I think that's genius, because not only is that show that you've got people you can trust around you, but also that you are a good family person. And I think that shows a lot about a person whenever they have their family near. Thus why my brother and I do this podcast together. We're not close in mileage right now, but we're close through this internet that we're on. It's all about family to me.
Yeah, that's me. It's all about family. I try to help anybody that's willing to help themselves, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I see a lot of potential in people. Sometimes, a lot of people may, and I'm not going to say, brag on myself or nothing, but like when I was promoting full time, I would use somebody, see potential in somebody that nobody else really wanted to use. Then when I started doing something with them, next thing you know, everybody's using them. It's like, well, wait a minute, you just didn't want to use this guy.
Right.
I tell you, somebody, and Jimmy, the guy as well as I do, had a lot of potential, and a lot of people really didn't see it at first, was Byron Flynn.
Yeah,
great
absolutely.
Hand. Great hand, man. And a lot of people really didn't see that at first, but look at him now, doing wonderful things. I remember
you introduced Doug Markham to the scene up there.
I sure did.
He's doing things with MLW and all kinds of. Conrad Thompson brings up Doug Markham on his podcasts. I'm just saying. So I remember you introducing him. Anyway, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just try to help people that were willing to help themselves or had potential, or I thought that they had potential, and all they needed was a little help. Every once in a while, we're all at the bottom and trying to get our way up. And if it wasn't for people helping me along the way, I wouldn't have got to be where I was at and got to do the things I got to do. And, and I never forgot that. And as I said, if I ever got in a situation where I could help somebody else out, I'd sure try to help them any way I could. And I tried to do that, as often as I could. And, and with Cody and David coming up, Jerry Lynn, and you can talk to them and they'd tell you, I never gave them anything. I made them work for it and I made them earn it, and I didn't just hand that spot. Hey, here you go. I'm going to get you a spot. Right. I made them earn it and made them keep earning it to keep it, and I think it made them better. I mean, David and Cody were traveling quite a bit. They've both kind of gotten out, not really doing a whole lot anymore. Cody had a little girl, my granddaughter, Presley Ray, And, so he's not doing much since he's had her. David's not doing a whole lot now. The ironic thing is, they said, man, wrestling just ain't what it used to be. And I said, you got that right. Think about 30 years ago when I got into it.
Seriously.
Look at the difference now.
Yeah. No kidding. I mean, it's almost to the point now that, I could even go out here in North Carolina and get some bookings. I know people that come down here and stuff, but honestly, I just don't have the drive for it because I look and see it, the current product. That's why we named this show, Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not just a saying. It's actually something we feel, so
the biggest problem with wrestling today is a lot of people's not worried about next week, next month, 6 months down the road. They're worried about today, tonight.
Yeah, hot shot booking. Yep.
And then I knew where I was going when I was booking. I knew where I was going, and I was 3-4 months out. And I knew where I was going 3 to 4 months down the road. A lot of people don't do that,
Right.
To me, the craziest thing, and I think this story here, Jimmy, firing somebody because they have too much heat. Why would you fire somebody because they have too much heat? That
Seriously.
is the most asinine thing I've ever heard. That means you need to fire the rest of your guys and make them step it up. I can understand if they got too much cheap heat. There's such thing as heat and cheap heat. But, make your other guys step up to the level this person got. I mean, make your baby faces step up to the level of this baby face, and people don't want to do that, now, today, people's worried about, hey, man, I can sell 5 tickets. Oh, I'm going to book you. I'm going to put you on the show tonight because you're going to sell 5 tickets next week.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When we were talking a while ago, talking about Freddie and Ricky, and even with them being related to me, I didn't just walk in the door and, hey, everything was handed to me. I mean, it was hard for me to get in. I had to prove that I was willing to give what it takes to make it in this business. And that's what I kept proving time and time again, that I was willing to do. I remember driving to Dallas, Texas one time for Skandor Akbar, and I got a hot dog, a cold drink, and $10.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
A 10.5-hour drive. And he says, you want to come back? I said, I'd absolutely love to, but I can't come back from this. We'll have to talk about price.
Right. Seriously.
It wasn't too long after that he had passed, and unfortunately I didn't get to go back. But I paid a lot of dues and did a lot of shows where there was hardly no money involved, or time you paid gas and trans or whatever, and food, and you didn't make anything. You went in the hole, but you got your name out there.
Right. Yeah.
Shane, what's your favorite promotion you've ever worked for?
Well, I guess I did a little bit for the USWA, and I guess growing up watching that, and able to work the fairgrounds, and I didn't work the fairgrounds for the USWA, but doing a little bit for them. But I guess that was the favorite thing there.
For sure.
Promotion, because a lot of people's ambitions or whatever. My dream is to go to Madison Square Garden. My dream was to go to the Nashville Fairgrounds. That's where I grew up watching wrestling, or to the Mid-South Coliseum or something
Louisville
to that
Gardens.
effect.
Let's go there. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to work the Gardens and got to work Evansville at the Coliseum and different places, and really enjoyed what I got to do. And I worked some dark shows for WWE and WCW and different places, and some house shows for them. And, I enjoyed what I got to do and was thankful for what I got to do.
Where did you work for them at? Was it in the Gardens? Is that where you worked?
No, I worked spot shows for them wherever. I remember one time driving with Debbie Combs and Robbie Rage. We went to a place you may know, Golly Bridges, West Virginia, or something like that.
I've heard of that place.
Yeah, it was for a WWF show, and then Tom Brandy was the booker for it. He was booking the shows, and it was a fair show.
Okay.
So they got on a bunch of these little sending crews down to do these fair shows, and it wasn't a big, huge thing, but they were getting paid big buku bucks to do it. And I got on a bunch of those shows like that, got me booked on a lot of stuff with me out a lot. You know, the women did.
Yeah,
so,
that's awesome. So,
yeah,
okay, so you got your favorite promotion then, obviously. So, you know, what was your favorite promotion that you got to run?
Well, the CWA, I ran that for years. You know, that was mine, and I really enjoyed that. Had a lot of huge success there. You know, we ran out of an armory in Columbia every other week for quite a long time, and you know, back then, we were thinking about canceling if we drew 300 people. You know, it was like, oh, they don't got 300 people, we might cancel. You know, but I had put 1,100 people in there for a show that was just local talent, no big huge name on it, local talent, and drew 1,100 people.
Yeah. Well, you always drew well in Columbia. I know that because I worked those shows, especially now. It may have been a different era, obviously, but at the same time, I remember you packing the buildings out wherever you did it. So always impressed by that.
Yeah. You know, and like I said, that goes back to I know you know who I'm talking about, Jimmy, the Devil's Disciples.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We had a long ongoing, we feuded with those guys for 27 years, believe it or not.
They were like your Midnight Express, basically. I mean, if you think about it. Right. Every year at Mule Day, you know, that's a big thing around Columbia, was Mule Day. And there would be 300,000 to 400,000 people in this town for mule gatherings, you know. And we would always run a big show there, and always would have the Mortons and the Devils on it, and it was nothing but a fight. It was a street fight, some kind of fighting going on, and it drew every time. And I remember we ran head to head against another show, and they were trying to dog the show out, my show out, you know. Oh, why would you want to go see that? That was the same main event you seen 20 years ago. You need to be over here. And they were trying to use fake Mortons and all kinds of stuff. And that night they drew maybe 75 people there. I drew 550 people. Yeah. And you know, with that same main event that they said wasn't going to draw, I drew 550 people with that. That's awesome.
Did you have like a worst promotion you ever worked for, or like?
Worst promotion I ever worked for. That's kind
maybe
of a tough one there, man. There's quite a few of them that I hated. You know, that I hated working for. You know, because of dumb stuff. You know.
Sure.
You know,
and a good one can turn into a bad one, right? I mean, that's just how it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Good one could, because I think I may know one that you're talking about right in the mind right now. But
yeah, I mean, there's several, man, that just were. I can give you one good one. They called me, want to know if I'd come and wrestle for this company, and I knew who the company was, and I was like, no. Because they really didn't have any talent or anything. And I was like, no, I don't want to come there. And he's like, oh, please, we need your help. We need your help. And anyway, I decided to go to work for them. And it was RTW. And they asked me, so if you owned this, what would you do with this company? I said, I'd fire everybody you had and hire new talent because you don't have any talent. Wow. And they said, oh, okay. So they fired everybody.
Oh, man.
And they said, yeah, so they fired everybody except for one person, and that was the promoter's son, and they kept him. And they said, can you hire some guys? So I hired some guys to come in and turned it into a halfway decent place. And then they think when I got it up and going, oh, we're drawing now, we can fire Shane. So they fired me to get rid of me. And that's not why I'm mad at them, but it just, they never deserved to be in the business. Let me just put it that way. They was not willing to work at anything to make the business better. They were all about doing everything they could to destroy the business. And, you know, somebody come up and say, hey, I want to be a wrestler. Okay. Give me $100 and you can be a wrestler tonight. And they'd stick them right in the ring. No training, no nothing.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen guys do that and they claim they were trained by Chase Stevens or they're trained by this guy. And, you know, wrestling can be very dangerous. Absolutely. But I don't know that there's anything more dangerous than an untrained wrestler, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I agree with you 100%. That's like you talking about that, Jimmy. one night I was sitting in Tullahoma, Tennessee at a National Guard armory, and this guy was talking about he was trained and all this and that and the other. And I don't know if you know Rick Reynolds or not, Forsaken.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He was telling,
great guy.
He was telling Forsaken, said, oh, yeah, man, I was trained by Shane Morton. And I'm sitting right beside this thing.
Oh, my goodness.
And I looked at him, and so Rick says, so Shane Morton trained you? Yeah, man. You know who he is? He's kin to Ricky Morton. He said, oh, yeah, I know who he is. I've heard of him. He kicks on, and he goes on with this conversation for about 4 or 5 minutes. And I looked at him. I said, so Shane Morton trained you? He goes, oh, yeah. I said, I don't like him, man. He goes, oh, I wouldn't tell him, man. He might whoop you. I said, I don't think he can whoop me. And he goes, oh, yeah, he might. I said, no. I said, you got his phone number? He said, well, yeah, but I don't have it with me. I said, because I sure like to talk to him. And he goes, why you want to talk to him for? I said, because he's an idiot if he trained you. And he goes, oh, no, he ain't no idiot, man. He's been around. I said, oh, really? I said, wow. I said, now, what's your name again? And he told me who he was, and I don't even remember what his name is. And I said, well, it's funny. I don't ever recall training you. And he goes, do what? And I said, I don't ever recall training you. And I'm going to give you about 5 seconds to get out of this dressing room, because if you don't get out of this dressing room, I'm fixing to hurt you. He said, well, who do you think you are? I said, well, let me introduce myself. My name's Shane Morton.
Oh,
and he goes, and he started backpedaling, and he left and never come back.
I was going to say, has anyone ever seen this man again? Because I can't imagine he would ever even show his face at a show. I bet he don't even watch wrestling anymore because of that.
Oh, he probably does it. He probably does it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that is amazing story.
If you're a pro wrestling fan, there's something for everyone at the Cheap Heat TV Podcast Network. From the Pro Wrestling Discussion Show, Cheap Heat TV Live, to the interview show, the Jackson Interaction Podcast with the king of all wrestling media, Gene Jackson, to the silliness of the Whitey Jenkins Show, and the brand new Zip, Xander's Irresistible Podcast with Charles Anders. You can check them all out and much more over at CheapHeatTVLive.com.
This is the Big Picture, Michael Jablonski. Don't forget to tune in every week to Jablonski's Pissed Off on the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling YouTube channel.
The hot in the sport, he's gonna tell you all about it. He doesn't care what you think, you're gonna hear all about it. Mike Jablonski, he's so pissed off. Mike Jablonski, he's so pissed off. Mike Jablonski, he's so pissed off. He's pissed off.
So I told you about this game that we play. Everybody that listens, they know the game that we do here. It's called the name game. And all this is to elicit a response from you, whether it's a word, a story, just whatever you got. You don't have to give us a bunch, but you can also, if it's a great story, don't let us stop you here. So whenever we do this, literally, we just kind of let you take over on this one. So we're going to start out the name game. Shane Morton, do you want to play the name game?
I do.
All right, let's do it. DJ, hit the music.
Now it's time to play the name game. Now it's time to play the name game. Now it's time to play the name game.
Jared, kick it off.
All right, Shane, we spoke about him a little bit earlier, but Gypsy Joe.
Oh, man. What a great mentor, man. He helped me out a lot coming into the business. Nothing but great minds. And if Joe liked you, he took care of you. Joe didn't like you, he's going to hurt you. One of the fondest memories I have of Joe, Joe lost his leg due to diabetes and stuff before he passed. And 2 great memories. Gulf Coast Wrestling Reunion. They do a big reunion down at the Gulf Coast every year, or they used to. They've canceled it now. But I took Joe down there one of the last years he was alive, and loved it. And we were in the car going down I-65 South, and Joe's got his nub up there, and Sweet Home Alabama comes on. He got that nub. Put the damn music up. Sweet Home Alabama. He was just had that love of going. Never forget that. Never forget that. And the last time I ran a promotion was in Columbia. Was doing real well with it. And we were having it wasn't Mule Day, but we were having a big show. And I called Joe. And Joe was living in a nursing home and was kind of depressed and stuff. I said, Joe, I'm going to get some 8x10s made up of you. And I want you to come down and sign them. And he goes, man, nobody know Joe no more. I said, Joe, I'm going to come and get you and bring you to the wrestling. And I want you to, will you do that? I want to advertise you're going to be there. And he says, oh, nobody know Joe no more. I said, I want to advertise you, Joe, to let people know you're going to be there. Okay. He said, okay. So I got, I think it was 5 or 6 photos made up of Joe. 8x10s, went and had them copied, made right quick, carried him down there. He ended up selling about $300 or $400 worth of pictures that night at $5 a piece.
Wow.
And I was taking him home, back to the nursing home that night. And I drove 70 miles out of the way to get him. And had to drive him back home that night. But as I was driving him back home, he handed me all that money. And he said, here, you keep this money because you let Joe live again. You let Joe be a man again. And I said, Joe, you take that money. You keep that money, buddy. I don't want your money. And he said, no, you take it. I said, Joe, didn't you say you had to buy snacks and stuff for yourself while you're at the nursing home? He said, yes, yeah. I said, you keep that money. You give it to Janae. That's Joe's daughter. I went to school with Joe's daughter. Yeah. I said, you give that money to Janae and let Janae buy you some snacks or whatever you need, bro. I said, thank you for everything you've ever done for me in the wrestling business. I said, you took care of me when I was young and dumb. And I said, least I could do is repay the favor to you. And I'll never forget that. He cried that night and said, you let Joe live to be a man again.
Man, that means a lot. Oh, bro.
That's a story and a half, man.
Yeah, seriously. We should have saved that one for the end. that's a closer.
Man,
I love that.
Yeah, nothing but respect for Joe.
Yeah, seriously. So, all right, well, I'm going to take one here then. You brought him up a little bit earlier there, but let's talk about Ben Jordan. Ben Jordan. Oh, man. What can I say about Ben, man? Super great guy, great friend. Learned a lot from Ben. Used to, I copied a lot, 2 tag teams a lot when Steve and I did when we were coming up. One of them was the Wild Boys, Ben Jordan and Steve Manley. We bought a lot of their old tights and used to wear a lot of their old stuff that they either bought or didn't wear, didn't like, or whatever. We would buy them and use them. Or if they wore them, we'd still buy them and use them. And Wolfie and Jamie, we copied them a lot, oh, yeah.
That's good. That's good tag team wrestling, kind of take ones from this one and that one. But Ben, super nice guy, man. Well deserved. All the accolades he's ever received, man, and a lot that he doesn't get credit for. Very underrated. Man, super nice guy, though. Super nice guy. Nothing but respect to Ben.
Yeah. Well, you brought up the Devil's Disciples, Dante and the Great Mephisto. Talk about them a little bit.
Well, let me tell you, the last match I had was in 2019, and it was against Mephisto and Dante. Yeah. It was actually it was Mephisto, Dante Forsaken, Corey Cruz, and Cannibal Lecter against Steve, myself, Cody, David, and Jerry Lynn. But like I told him at the end of that match, I said, only thing I can tell you, it's easy to like somebody that likes you back.
Yeah.
And it's easy to love somebody that loves you back. It's hard to love somebody that hates you.
Right.
I said, but I'm going to tell you what, for 28 years, we've beaten banged against y'all. I said, whether I like you or love you or whatever, I can always tell you this. No matter what, y'all always made us bring out our A game when we was in the ring with y'all. And I said, I have nothing but respect for y'all because y'all paved the way for guys like us.
You had to have the bad guys, you had to have the villains, they were so good at that.
Exactly. And man, they were, like I said, if it wasn't for those guys, man, half the guys around in this area wouldn't have been who they were if it wasn't for Mephisto and Dante.
Exactly. I agree. Rick Reynolds, I've heard his name so many times and different guys. Like I said, he trained Wolfie D. He, did so many things with other guys, but, I knew him as Forsaken. What a great, huge man that guy is. You know what I mean? Talk about him.
Well, now that I'm not wrestling with him anymore, man, one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet. Let me tell you, I know right now if I was going down the road and I needed him, he would drop whatever he's doing to come and help me. Yeah. He's become a lot of people don't know this, but he's became a ordained minister. Man, just a great guy, godly man. I'm going to just tell you a quick story about him. I worked that guy solid every Saturday night for a year, for 1 year straight. And we were finishing up a deal and in Columbia. And they was like, well, where are you going to go from here? What are you going to do now? And we did a 1 hour time limit and played cat and mouse for 59 and a half minutes. I'll shoot 59 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
30 seconds, I get a hold of him, start beating him up, and the bell rings.
Oh, man.
Like, what the heck happened? Time limit draw. Well, Larry Valentine and the sharp-dressed man Lawrence come out and jumped on me, started beating the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Well, guess who helped me out? Forsaken.
Of course.
So guess who becomes my new tag team partner? Shane Morton, Forsaken against Larry Valentine and sharp-dressed man Lawrence. And we worked another 6 months like that. Just, man, awesome guy.
Natural storytelling that makes sense. It's, God forbid that happen, right? Come on.
Right.
So here's another guy. How about this one? Stylin' Shane Eden.
Stylin' Shane. He was a different character there now. I'm just great guy, man. Loved him to death. Still do. Had a lot of ability. Just don't think he knew how to put it together, if you know what I mean. Had a ton of potential, and I think he kind of listened to some of the wrong people at the wrong time, and never really developed into the potential person that he could have been. If that makes sense to you.
It does. Yeah.
Shane, how about one of our past guests that we've had on here? It's one of our highest rated episodes ever. Jeff the Crippler Daniels.
Jeff, man, what can you say about Jeff Daniels? Great talent. Man, I think probably one of the best talkers in the business. I mean, he can cut a promo on you. And man,
absolutely.
He just a great man. Man, any card that he went to, he was a great asset to any card. Nothing but respect for Jeff. Great guy. Didn't see eye to eye with him a lot on different things. We had difference of opinions on things. Was he right? No. Was I right? No. But we agreed to disagree on things. But we were both very professional about it. Like I said, much respect to him, though, man. Great guy.
Yeah, we had fun on that show. Jeff is the kind of guy that really, like how we're kind of doing the interview here and you're answering the questions. Jeff doesn't really need that. He just is his own one-man show. Not that you couldn't do that as well, but still, I was like, hold up, Jeff. let's get there.
Before he asked him.
Jeff would already have the answer out before we could ask it, which was good.
He come out of that Louisiana territory, and I think he worked a lot in South Texas, and man, because if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I believe he worked for Joe Blanchard a lot. There was a lot of great talent out there when he was out there.
Yeah.
And Louisiana, a lot of the old Mid-South, Bill Watts territory, a lot of great guys come out of that area too, and Jeff was just in the right place at the right time. Jerry Jarrett come and watch Rick Reynolds and myself one night in Columbia, and we was working for that RCW, and I sold my ass off, and was just selling. Jerry told Rick and I, he said, boy, I could have made some money with y'all guys. You're about 10 years too late on the territory deal. And he said, I could have made money with y'all guys. I was like, dang. But what a compliment, what a compliment.
Seriously, that's a great compliment. Yeah. Speaking of another guy that's a great talent and a good old guy, and I really enjoyed getting to know him through the years. And you guys had some great battles at Saw, in my opinion. And prior to that is the Boogie Woogie boy, Gary Valiant.
Man, what can I say about Gary? One of the best partners I ever had. One of the worst enemies I ever had. I mean, we had a love-hate relationship sometimes, but man, what a talent. What a talent. Man, understood. And man, I don't know if you know this or not, but could shoot. He was a good shooter too.
Oh, yeah.
If he wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
Legitimate shooter, his brother Billy. Oh, yeah. His brother Billy was a great shooter in Japan, and Gary used to scrap with Billy quite a bit, and man, but Gary, man, loved him like a brother, man. He was a twin brother from a different mother. Talking about gelling well, he and I gelled very well together. Funny thing, heat and hot tag and all that is. We used to argue with who was going to take the heat in the match. I'll get it. I'll get it. Yeah. And then the other one would end up doing it just to make the other one mad. I took the heat. Sorry. I thought I was supposed to do it. But, working with him when we was doing the BWO, I think a lot of people will tell you we got fired 7 times in 7 days because we had so much heat. People wanted to kill us. I remember one night in McMinnville, Tennessee, we had so much heat that the sheriff showed up because there was 20 people standing outside with guns waiting on us to come out the door. And they said, we got to find a way out the back here. And I said, I'm not going out the back. I'm going out the front. I come in the front door. I'm going out the front door. And they said, y'all can't go out the front door. And Gary said, well, Shane's going out the front door. I'm going out the front door with him. Yeah. So we walked out there. And they were, I said, first one of you point a gun at me, I'm going to make you eat that thing. And the sheriff said, the first one of you point a gun at him, I'm going to take you to jail. But the best thing for you two to do is get in a damn car and get to the county line. Don't you ever come back to this county again. Oh, my God. So he followed us to the county line and made us leave and told us we could never come back to that county again. Man. So we had to wait about 6 months for him to lose the election so we could go back to that county.
That's incredible. Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny.
Now that's
how about another former guest of ours, Hammerjack?
Hammerjack and I had a lot of success together. We tagged together a lot too. And at one time we were the CWA tag team champions. We were the SWF tag team champions. We were the Southern All-Star champions. We were about we had about 4 sets of tag belts at one time. We've been managed by Charmin Charles. A lot of great talent with Kenny. Kenny had a lot of potential too. Kenny wanted to get in there and wanted to really make a go of it, and got to where, I don't know, he started believing his hype. I was like, Kenny, calm down. Or, and, man, great love for Kenny, man. I love Kenny to death, and had a lot of success with him, had a lot of fun with him, had a lot of good battles with him. I've battled him quite a few times, had a lot of good battles with him. Matter of fact, old former partner of mine, Devin Domain, and myself used to tag up quite a bit, and we would be wrestling Fast and Furious, Hammerjack and Shane. We had a lot of good battles with those guys.
Yeah, there's some underrated stuff. I'm hoping Brian Turner's VHS Rehab can pull some of all that stuff out. Any of it that was recorded, because he's really turning out some good stuff over there. Hopefully, I'd like to see a little more Shane Morton in that channel too, by the way, Brian. But anyway.
I tell you what, I wished we used to film every week, and we would record over it. I kicked myself in the butt all the time for not putting a lot of it on tape, man. I probably got 35 or 40 VHS tapes full of old stuff that I need to get put on CDs. Do you know who Scott Teal is?
Yeah, sure do.
Scott did a thing. He invited me to his reunion to bring Joe before Joe passed away, and that was a highlight of my career there. I got to go to that. That was really the Tennessee Wrestling Legends thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
for sure.
He took a bunch of old VHS tapes that my brother had given him and put them together and put them on DVDs. And he said, Shane, I didn't realize you and your brother tagged up as much as y'all did. He said, man, Morton Brothers, we seen y'all in town after town after town after town. He said, I've never seen so many matches that y'all had with different people. And I said, yeah, we got around, back in the day, we would work 6 or 7 days a week. When we started out, we were wrestling 6 and 7 days a week. So we was in different towns with different people, and, we could make a living doing it, but it's hard to do that anymore. But anyway, let's get back to the main game.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next question I've got, because I know this name is going to elicit a great response or some kind of funny story, because he's just one of those guys that when you're in the locker room with him, you try to get around him as much as possible, even if it's just to hear what he's about to say or make fun of or whatever. And this one is Buzzed Up.
Oh, Buzzy. Let me tell you, we're to start with Buzzy. Man, what a great hint for a big man. He can move. I got a funny story with Buzzy. We were going to Detroit, Michigan one night, and I had a ring. I was pulling a ring up there to sell it, and it was Buzz. And we stopped in Louisville, Kentucky, picked up Jamie Dundee. So it was Buzz, Jamie, myself, me, Mike Woods, Stephen, Brady, and Kyle Scribner. We were all going up the road there. And it's a funny story, though. We stopped and got something to eat that morning for breakfast. And we just got through eating. We got to going down the road, and the truck window, something happened to my truck window. It wouldn't roll down, and Jamie farted. Oh, my God. It was horrible. I couldn't get the window rolled down fast enough, and I got a bad stomach, weak stomach, man. I was like, oh, my God. I'm trying to get pulled over. I can't get pulled over, and I get sick. I'm trying to catch it, throw it out the window. Buzz is sitting behind me with a towel. I got hit with sausage. Oh, he got me in the eye with the sausage. Jamie said, oh, it's a little bubble fall. I said, oh, my God, that is the rank and smelling. Oh, my God, you'll have to get Jamie Dundee one day to tell you that story. Jamie. Oh, my God, that was a funny story. But Buzz, man, what a great hand. He was one of those guys that I told you I took a chance on, and people were using him a little bit. When I took a chance on him, started using him quite a bit, man, everybody started using him then. And I'm not taking any credit for, he had some great ability, man, to be a big guy. Yeah. He can move. Love Buzzy to death, man. He knows if he called me right now, I'd get up if I had to and go help him. Love the man to death.
He was one of those guys that if you look, even if you just search just a little bit, you're going to randomly see him on a wrestling promotion somewhere. It'll be Illinois, Indiana, North Carolina, somewhere, obviously Tennessee, somewhere in Kentucky, somewhere in Alabama. It's never surprising to me when I look on a thing. I was like, daggone, there's Big Bad John, or there's Buzzed Up, or whatever. It's to me, he's still working and he's real consistent. And we're going to have him on the show one day. I'm going through a list here, Shane. You know what I mean? We're trying to work through some names, but he's definitely on the list for sure.
Let me give you another quick little deal on Buzzy. One night we was doing a big Devil's Disciples and the Mortons, and they asked me, said, how long is this main event going to go? I said, 10 seconds. They said, for real? I said, for real. And so we go out to the ring, and Buzz was supposed to be giving the cue. They said, when we're supposed to go? He said 10 seconds. Buzz counted 10, and here they come. And they like, I don't think he's supposed to be here. I said, no, he's supposed to be here. And they said, oh, okay. Everybody thought Buzz had messed up, but he didn't. He said, oh, the man told me 10 seconds. I gave him 10 seconds. And sure enough, and we did the blow-off to that match. Said, well, you know what? We didn't get to finish this tonight, but I tell you what, tomorrow night, Lewisburg, Tennessee, you meet us there. We'll finish this damn fight there tomorrow night. And they had standing room only the next night because all them people drove the next night to that next town. True story, Buzz will tell you.
That's genius.
Yeah, Buzz will tell you. And man, he had about 350 people. That's all that building would hold, man. It was rafter and rafter, people hanging everywhere. And they was like, I can't believe these people showed up. I said, because it was a fight. That's what they wanted to see. Columbia was built on blood and guts. That's what they wanted to see, a fight.
Yeah.
They liked the wrestling, but they wanted to see a fight. Matter of fact, I was talking about Mule Day. I went to a Mule Day thing this past week, and there was a gentleman come up to me, knew who I was. And he said, Shane, I just want to tell you, man, some of the fondest memories I have in my life with my kids was coming to watch wrestling. Because every Mule Day, when y'all faced them devils, we knew it was going to be a fight and somebody was leaving in an ambulance.
Yeah.
I said, you got that right. So, to me, that was for that coming from a fan, to me, said, hey, you did your job. And that's what we wanted to do.
Absolutely.
That was a high compliment, man. Yeah. How about Chris Champion?
Oh, man, where to start? Chris Champion, man. Man, love Chris to death. Man, what a great worker, man. Chris battled some demons. He battled some demons and overcome, and battled some demons, overcome, just like everybody. You kind of, we have our own demons. Everybody fights with their own demons. But, man, what can you – great mind, great mind, man. Love Chris to death, man. Would do anything in the world. I actually try to help him out there towards the end of his career. We put a big benefit together. Wolfie and Jamie actually showed up and worked it. And Brian Christopher, a lot of great hands. But that tells you the volume when you get guys like Wolfie and Jamie, Brian Christopher, guys like that that's willing to come in to help, to wrestle for free to help another fellow out. That tells you the volumes of respect that they had for him too. But man,
he put PG together. He put PG together. Right. So that was his reason. So they owe a lot to him, obviously. So
most definitely. And like I said, he's the one that put us, Steve and I, together and said, I want to call y'all the Marvelous Mortons. And about the first year and a half, we were the Marvelous Mortons. And then we became the Morton Brothers, but more people knew us as the Morton Brothers than they did the Marvelous Mortons. But Chris, man, he took a chance on two young kids from Columbia, and had a great interest in us and started doing things with us. And man, we owe our career to Chris too, because he gave us our first big push and started doing something with us. And awesome. Like I said, we went on with Mephisto and Dante, and man, they turned us into the workers we became.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So my next one, and you brought him up a little bit earlier, and I was worried you were going to go in real detailed story on him, but a guy I got to meet through you and got to work with a few times and always enjoyed the company around. He was a real dude, you could tell. Sharp Dress Lawrence. Talk about him.
Lawrence, man, actually, one of the first guys we ever really worked the program was Chris put Steve and I against him and Franklin. They were strictly business, and we worked those guys for a long time, man. Great guy, man. Probably got one of the best chops in the business. Man, he could light you up with a chop, and man, I give him kudos, give him props. He's still working, doing his thing. And I think that he and his son just won the tag team titles down this way where I live at, not too far from where I live. I seen where they were working, and he's working he's working 2 to 3 times a week still, and
that's impressive.
Yeah, he's got he's got a good mind for the business too. Been around a long time. Very underrated, has more potential than people cared to dabble with, wanted to just, but man, he's got a great mind for the business. Loved sitting around talking with him. He's like family. Actually, his wife, Lynn, and my wife are best friends. So I still see him quite a bit time to time, and still carry on with him, but yeah, man, great worker, great hand, an asset to any card that he's working,
That's why he was always on one of yours, right? I mean, that's that says a lot.
Yeah. Well, I put him on there. Like you said, it was one of the I was willing to take chances on people because people took chances on me.
Right.
And at the time when I broke into business, Lawrence was into business. Wasn't much. He was smaller than he is now too, and everybody's like, y'all little skinny kids, y'all can't do nothing. Y'all skinny kids. But we would still the test of time,
Yeah, you're still standing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How about friend of the podcast here, contributor also, and Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling? How about Mike Jablonski?
Mike Jablonski, man, what can I say about Jablonski? Great hand. Was a little rough around the edges when he come in. Probably like everybody young when they come in, eager, hungry, bad attitude. I think he had a bad attitude when he first started, and I think he got running around, tagging up with Quentin Charisma, and Quentin started showing him the ropes. Then he started becoming like, all right. Then you could see the difference in his transformation. And man, what a hand he's turned into now. Got a great mind, great mind, man, and give the man props, man. He's a friend of mine on Facebook, and constantly in the gym trying to improve his body, man. Great
Absolutely.
guy, man. Turned into one hell of a worker. Love Mike Jablonski. He's put on some shows and did some stuff to help out a youth football group around his house where he lives at, and done real well with that. And man, just kudos to the man. He's a great worker, great hand. I think he's working a lot down towards Dyersburg now.
Yeah, that's
so
where it's at.
He's staying busy. Yeah, he's staying busy, and I'm glad to see him staying busy. But if I was running the show today, which I did use him and J.C. Crow quite a bit on that last run I had running around Columbia there, I used him as much as I could. J.C. Crow was a great little hand, man.
Oh, yeah,
great
very good talent. Hanging tough with Quentin Charisma, J.C. Crow, Jeremiah Plunkett. But so I don't want to jump into that real quick, but I gave, knowing what you said about Mike, a little rough around the edges, could get a little angry. I actually gave him his own show called Jablonski's Pissed Off. But I will say I think Jablonski's turned a new leaf on that because he doesn't really want to do the pissed off show anymore. So I get that. If he's not feeling pissed off, the thing that I like about Mike is every time he talks, he's kind of got that Tony Falk kind of vibe about him, not in the way that Tony does it or LT. Right. I mean, in the way that he is always seemingly cutting a promo a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I thought that would make a good show. But hey, he just kind of said, hey, look, dude, heart's not into it at the moment. I'm all good with that. I don't ever want to tell somebody to do something that they're not feeling at the moment. But there's about 17, 18 episodes of that out there on YouTube. Y'all go check that out sometime. Anyway, I'm a huge fan of Jablonski, always will be. He's definitely a friend of the show and always will be as that too. So
yeah, like I said, when I met when I met Jablonski, and he had the kind of like he was probably 18 years old. So, he was real rough around the edges and green. And he was one of them. Oh, I'm better than you think I am. And, like I said, then when she got with Quentin, and I think Quentin toned him down and worked him up a little bit and got him a lot better, man. Like I said, I use Jablonski whenever I'm running the show. I wouldn't hesitate calling him because, man, he is a great hand now. And that's yours. Hey, when Danny Pigg's a great friend of mine. I don't know if you're familiar with Danny Pigg or not.
I know the name.
But,
yeah.
He ref for years, but he told somebody one day, he said, yeah, when I first met Shane, I thought, well, this little cocky, arrogant guy ain't never going to amount to nothing. And he said, boy, did he prove me wrong.
Yeah.
And I guess that's kind of what I'm saying about Jablonski, that Jablonski was rough around the edges and very cocky. And I think we all are that way when we come into, a male hormone driven sport, Hey, we all want to be number one, and man, but he's turned into a great, great hand. Nothing but respect for him.
So he was the kind of guy that the current Jablonski would slap now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I was going to tell you, he paid me an ultimate compliment. I don't know if you're familiar or not, but I do reunion every year, and he came to it last year, and he hugged me and said, "Man, I love you, dude. I always thought of you as like a father figure in the wrestling." That made me feel good, man.
Yeah, we're going to cover that in just a second. I promise we're going to let you put that over. I can't wait to hear all about it. So I got 3 more here, and I want to kind of do these in pieces here. So the next one, of course, we can't get out of doing the name game without talking about Plunky, our old buddy Plunky.
Man, Plunky, where to start? JP Dangerously when I met him.
Yeah.
And met this kid, and I was like, let me watch him a little bit. And I watched this match, and I'm like, man, he's got some potential. And I was like, yeah, man, hey, I'll run a show down here in Columbia. Man, you think he might could work? Yeah, I'd love to. And got to talking to Plunky and got to know Plunky, and man, what an awesome individual, man. What an awesome individual. He great guy, great man. He's one of the most underrated talents that I think NWA has right now. Man, he's a solid carpenter.
Yeah.
Carpenter. That's what I'm saying about Plunky. You put Plunky in the ring with anybody, and he's a carpenter. He'll make them like $1 million, man. He is great, man. He just had nothing but good things about Plunky. Awesome individual, and great personality to the business. Loves the business, man. He's got the Destroyer hood on that. I believe it's the Destroyer hood tattoo, right?
I think it's like a half and half. It's a half assassin, maybe, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, maybe. Yeah, maybe. But man,
he's going to kill me for
respect for the business.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. But what respect for the business, man. Plunkett is why he's not signed to a major deal. I mean, I know he's working for NWA, and not to say that that's not a major deal, but why he's not at NXT I know why he's not. They're looking for that cookie cutter body, but man,
right.
A great example that they had for a while, Trevor Murdoch. Man, he's like an old Murdoch, He's like, the old rough, big bone guys. But man, he can work, and great, like I said, just great personality, attitude. Man, got the best personality or attitude for the business. Don't mind doing a job if he has to. Doesn't mind doing whatever as long as it makes sense.
Absolutely. He's a number one in our book. He's actually the first episode for us. And we need to get him back on, because I'm sure it's been over a year now since we've done this, and definitely need to get old Plunky back on, because like I said, he's been good to me, and I've been glad. I've been a better person for knowing him. So the next name on here, I got to know him working at Saw, but also through you as well, is old Norrie Eron Havoc.
Man,
another shooter.
What a talent. Man, the Jarretts knew that they had a good potential guy in him, and just kind of missed the boat, so to speak, on the tail end of the territories. I know he worked for the Jarretts, but the big territory days where you could really make a living doing that, he missed the boat just by a couple of years, but what a talent.
Literally. Yeah.
What a talent, man. What a mind. What a mind. Super nice guy. Probably the nicest guy you'll ever meet, man. He just, man, what a heel. What a heel.
Totally.
I remember like
bringing him into
Columbia.
He was not a heel in real life, but he was like the biggest difference of a person from real life. Like some people say, living the gimmick. He was the opposite of that,
Right. I remember bringing him to Columbia to work me, and I was a heavyweight champion at the time. And this was for I was booking for the company then, and I brought him in, and I said, I want to do something with you, and told him what I want. I said, don't want you to come out, just take the belt, steal the belt, whatever, hit me with it. And he said, okay. So very first night, he steals the belt, he hits me with it. I got color everywhere. And it was the hard way. He said, oh my God, you're bleeding. I said, oh, no joke. Oh my God. I seen stars when he hit me. I was like, man. He goes, You okay? I was like, God, did I owe you money or something? Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he had so much heat. I really thought that I was going to have to call the police to get him escorted out of town that night because he had so much heat. They were pulling knives out and everything, trying to cut him, and it was, man. But what a hand! I think he could have been one of the best heels, he is, in my opinion. But I think he could have been one of the best, last of the dying breed of the territory days of a heel.
Yeah,
man,
absolutely.
If he would have been just given the chance,
Yeah, I've heard stories about how Frank Morrell and Jeff Jarrett try to work him up and try to get him to really work against Wolfie in the match, try to shoot on Wolfie in the match. It's just a rib on Wolfie, But anyway, So the last name on the list is this guy. I know he might be the dirtiest SOB you've ever heard of in your life, and he sold you that camel with two humps, Prince Omar Alcazan.
Prince Omar, man, let me tell you, what a man! This straight up shoot now, reminding me of a young Gary Hart.
Oh
man, what a talent! I think he could have done a lot more. Man, I wanted to incorporate him so much in everything I was doing at the time because he was that good. And he was not a egotistical, I guess you could say, manager. He wasn't trying to put the focus on him. He knew when the focus needed to be on him. You didn't have to tell him. It was kind of one of them things. You could lead a camel to water, but you can't make the camel drink, so to speak. But no, he was one of those guys, man, that you didn't have to. Hey, man, I need you right here. Hey, I need you this. He knew where to be. His timing was, maybe it was just he and I. We gelled great together. Enjoyed all the time I got to work with. Wished I could have done a lot more with him.
For
man,
sure.
I had so much fun working with him, man.
Yeah.
So much fun.
That means a lot to him.
He's probably the reason why I got fired out there, because I had so much heat because of him.
Yeah.
He bring in that crazy Morton, man, and he paid the mayor off to change the name from Millersville to Mortonsville, and my God, they hated it.
I know they did. Hate it.
Man. Man, one of the best memories I have with in wrestling is with Omar. That's a straight shoot, man. The last several years, that was some of the funnest times that I'd had, and man, great guy, man, great guy. That's all I can tell you. Great guy, man. Loved him, man, to death. Wish I could still talk to him. I mean, he did give me a bad camel with two humps, but hey.
I have to block his number sometimes because he gets to going, and I'm like, what? You're not even saying English here. You're putting it in those squiggly Arabic letters, and I just don't understand what you're saying. And I'm having to do this Google Translate stuff. And I do know, though, every time he brings up Shane Morton, he brings up that honestly Shane was his favorite to work with. The one thing that he liked about Shane was that Shane was like working the old school guys, working with those guys. And I know that that's what meant so much to him, because honestly, when it came down to it, I mean, even though we were in the 2000s times at that time that y'all were together, he was all about, working with the old school guys. And I'll say this, I was in a weird place in my life at that time whenever life was going on and things were kind of crazy. And he kind of brought out something that kind of allowed that to kind of be less, you know what I mean? So anyway, I'm getting confused on third person and first person here. So I'll say this.
I think if things could have been differently, as far as booking goes, if they would have just left Shane and Omar alone with Dyron and those guys, we would have had a little dynasty going on there that would have been, because Dyron was the heavyweight champion at the time, and you know, and me personally, I didn't need a belt, didn't need anything because the people hated me so freaking much.
Right.
And, you know,
right. You were that kind of guy. Yeah.
Myself,
yeah.
Bubba, myself, and Dyron. But that also goes back to the baby face that we had, Boogie.
Yes.
You know, it was just so, you know,
oh my God.
You know, it was just so much. Like I said, that's why I ended up getting let go, because the other guys wasn't keeping up. But, man, if they would have done things a little bit different, that place would still be rocking and hanging out. People be hanging out of the rafters.
Man, Jared, let me tell you a story. So you've seen pictures of guys like the 80s guys that were knocked down, drag out, bloody faces, crimson mask. You've seen pictures, right, of these guys, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I've seen working in the scene in the industry, I've seen lots of little trickles. I've seen some scratches that never, you know, guy didn't go deep enough, whatever. But the most blood I've ever seen on a man in my life was you, brother, was Shane, because I was looking at him and I was like, oh my God, do we need to take you to the hospital? And you're just covered in it, man. And you're like, no, I'm fine. I was like, oh my gosh. This is that real stuff that you look for in the business of wrestling. Is I was just blown away, and you're just like, yeah, brother, it's cool. I was like, okay.
I remember one time that was talking about that was in a match, and I had blood every time my heart would beat. It was pumping at about 5 feet across the ring. It was just shooting.
Oh my gosh.
It just kept on. And it did that for probably, I'd say, good 6 or 7 minutes. It just kept pumping more. It just kept bumping and bumping. There, I've actually got a picture somewhere where I'm trying to wipe the blood out of my face because I can't see. Everything's red because I got so much blood, and all you see in the ring is handprints. My handprints where I've wiped blood out, trying to get up, and there's my handprint full of blood.
Yeah, that was impressive, man. So, you know, kind of as we're wrapping up here, Shane, you know, we got to get you back on because I know there's a million more stories in that brain. But talk about this Right Way Wrestling reunion, man. I love the idea of this.
Well, it started, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I used to go to the Gulf Coast reunion.
Right.
And, you know, it's about a 6-hour drive for me, but I didn't mind. I'd go down and get to see some of my heroes. My heroes became my friends, you know, and I'm like, man, this is so cool. And I always encouraged everybody, young, old, whatever, hey, man, go to the Gulf Coast Wrestling reunion, go to the reunion. And everybody's like, you know, I don't know. And I got a lot of bookings that way, believe it or not. By going down there and meeting like Scandor. That's how I met Scandor and became friends with him and got to work for him. But anyway, you know, so when they started shutting down, I was like, I became on the board of another wrestling reunion, and they wouldn't open the doors. Which is the North Alabama Mid-South Wrestling Reunion, but they would not open the doors. I said, well, the only way the younger guys are going to learn, because people's not just jumping in cars anymore, you know, and it's not, I mean, not to say that they won't, but the only way that's to me is when you got the most learning, when everybody was in the car there, you learned so much, because the best advice I ever got in the wrestling business was keep your mouth shut and your ears open.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's how you learn. Well, how are you going to learn if nobody's telling the story? Or now, if you go to a wrestling show, it's cliques. If you're not in this clique, you're over here in this clique. If you're not in that clique, you're in this clique. If you're not in any of the cliques, then you're sitting there by yourself.
Right.
You know, and nobody's conversating with anybody. Well, how's somebody going to learn?
Plus, you're not going to learn in your own clique. You know, because you're only going to go as high as the water level in your clique. So if you're a clique of these young guys, they're not going to know anything because they're sticking to their clique. Yeah, it's not good, you know.
Yeah. So I decided, you know, I said, well, if they don't want to open the doors, and actually buzzed up, and I was talking one day outside of the you know, wrestling, we were conversating. I said, I'm thinking about doing a wrestling reunion, trying to get a lot of these younger guys there and see if we can get some of these guys to show up. And he said, okay. He said, man, I'll help you any way I can. I said, well, I'm not worried about helping me. I just need to you think it would be a good idea? He said, I think it would be an awesome idea. So I kind of threw it out to a couple of people, and they was like, yeah, man, that'd be an awesome idea. So I started throwing it out to a few more people. Oh, yeah. So we actually did it. And the first one I did, I had people come from as far away as Michigan that came to it that I made acquaintances with all the way up there when I went up there and worked in Michigan area and stuff. And they came to it. And people from Chicago, when I worked there, came down. People from all over. And next thing you know, there's 300 people here. I'm like, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And so I kind of did another one. Well, the other reunion I was part of, they said, well, let's just open the doors. Well, I had started an awards bank, giving away awards. And I said, well, can I bring these awards to that one? And they said, well, we really don't want to give away a whole bunch of awards. Then they don't mean anything. And I'm like, well, I understand that, but I don't want to, let people vote on these awards and only give them out for 1 or 2 years and then be done with them, and then to me, it kind of defeats the purpose. Because let me tell you, one of the greatest honors I ever got is I got a Pioneer Award at the Gulf Coast Wrestling Reunion. Don Fargo had won that. You name it, they had won, different ones had won it. And for me to even be in that group, it just, I lit up like a Christmas tree. I was like, oh my God, awesome. I can't believe that they thought enough of me.
Yeah.
A kid from Columbia, Tennessee, to give me this award. And, I just wanted to let some other people get acknowledgement. It wasn't about me. It's not, that award was, but I knew the feeling I got when I won it. And I'm like, man, this is, how better way to get these younger guys more involved, get them here, give them awards. I don't know if you ever heard of a kid named Luther X. He made his rounds.
Yeah.
Now, Luther won a Trailblazer Award last year. I gave it away last year, and he had no idea that he was even winning it. About 10 people knew that he was winning it, and I told him, I said, man, y'all just got to keep this stuff under wraps and not tell anybody that you're winning. And man, he was, to me, he made that reunion last year what I wanted it to be. Not to say that people didn't appreciate the award I gave him, but he literally almost cried. He said, man, for a room of my peers to vote this for me is such an honor that I never thought I would receive. And I said, brother, you've got all the potential in the world to be a superstar. And I said, why you're not signed yet, I don't know. I said, but brother, you have a lot of potential. And he said, that means a lot coming from someone like you. I said, well, I'm nobody, but that's I'm awesome. Just telling you, I'm not the one that just, hey, let me just pick somebody. I've got a consensus vote from the people that's on the board of this. Yeah. And that's kind of the way we do it. So I think it's 10 or 12 people on the board, and they agree with me on, it's not me. I say, hey, if you think of somebody, shoot me an email. Let's get together. Let's talk about it and try to work things out and show some of these people that, that have been in the business or haven't been in the business or whatever, that their work has gone noticed. It hadn't gone unnoticed, that your hard work has paid off and you're being recognized by your peers. Because like I said, I knew how I felt when I received that award at Gulf Coast. And that's why I want people that's receiving awards. And we also do an unsung hero, somebody from behind the scene kind of thing, and it doesn't have to be just from, wrestling aspect, people videotaping, guys like y'all doing podcasts, people that are keeping wrestling alive, the old school wrestling. And that's what we want to acknowledge, is people like that, and, I hope someday y'all can get, either one of you, both of you can make it down. This year I'm doing it in Lynchburg by the Jack Daniels Distillery. And the reason why I'm doing that there is because I've got a couple of guys that are not healthy enough to travel.
Yeah.
And it's close enough to their house that they can make that short drive. That's awesome. The only reason why I'm doing it there. Is to try to recognize those guys, because they were unsung heroes, man, and did some stuff with the business, and I want to try to recognize them on that. for them to be there, and I want them to have that opportunity. And I don't want to have them, have that opportunity to come up and then me just take them an award. Here you go, you won this. I want them to be able to be there to receive it. And they don't know that they're receiving it. So, awesome. Or he doesn't know that he's receiving it. But I just want him to, I know he told me, if you ever had one close to Lynchburg there, I could probably go. And I contacted some people and found a building so I could rent a building there. And so that way he can get his award, But like I said, he doesn't know that it's coming. But, I just want to keep the wrestling that I grew up and loved. And, I know the sport's changing every day and you got to change with the times, but you can also live in the past and keep that fond memory alive too.
Absolutely.
And like the WrestleMania just happened. I've seen bits and pieces of it. Some of it was great. Some of it, not so much, but hey, it did have some good storytelling in some of it. But I think they've gotten away from the storytelling, and if their storytelling is about a month long, let's do about 4 or 5 shows. That's not a good storytelling. Like I said, with Forsaken, I did a year-long program with him. Heck, with the Devils, I did a 28-year program with him.
Yeah, that's a story right there. 28 years. Well, Shane. As always, when you and I get to talk, and it's not enough, and I can call you as much as I know that I can expect to be called. It's the phone works both ways, right? That's the way I say it.
Yeah, that's it.
And I don't keep in touch with you enough, but I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Like I said, you've been at the top of the list for a long time now, and for some reason just hasn't worked out to get you on. But I will say this without ever saying another word is honestly, truthfully, not only were you somebody that I looked up to and was a mentor and you taught me so much while I was out there, but you also were my friend. In the wrestling business, it's not always easy to have somebody you can call a friend. You can call somebody an acquaintance or somebody you respect, but to have a friend like you really meant a lot to me. And I will always say that to anybody who ever needs to hear it. Shane Morton is a good person and was always a good friend to me. So I thank you for coming on our show. My brother and I, we just like to keep wrestling alive. In a lot of cases, we just are recording our conversations, as we always say. But Shane, it's meant the world for you to be on our show, and thank you so much, brother.
Well, Jimmy and Jared, man, it's been my pleasure being on the show with y'all guys. You just don't know how well it made me feel today to be able to do this. And Jimmy, man, one thing I could tell you about the wrestling business, if I was your friend in the wrestling business, I was your friend.
Yeah.
You could count on that. So, I had a lot of acquaintances, but I was always told when I got in the wrestling business, if you get out of the wrestling business and you have 5 true friends in the wrestling business, you had an amazing career. Well, I can tell you that I got about 20 amazing friends from the wrestling business that I know I could count on, and you're one of them.
Well, that's a promotion right there, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, you was always a blessing to me, Jimmy. You had a lot of potential, man. A lot of potential that I think a lot of people was scared to let out of the bag. And I mean that truly.
Means a lot.
I think you have a lot of potential, man. Like I said, if left alone, I think you and myself and Byron and Bubba, we could have had one hell of a. We might not have had a 4 horseman dynasty, but we might have been right there underneath them,
Absolutely. So, I think a lot of places might have been a little scared to let that go too, you know what I mean? To really take the reins off, So,
Oh yeah, because they was afraid of the repercussions that might come of it, because we had a lot of people wanting to kill us.
So true. So true.
Yeah. One more quick story, and let me let you go though.
Please.
When my wife and I first started dating, she was smart to the business too. And I said, now look, you go outside and get the car ready and get the hatch. We had a Trailblazer. I said, you get that hatch up on that Trailblazer. I said, me and Bubba come running. We'll dive in the car. You take off. She goes, you think it's really going to be that bad? And she goes, oh my God, they want to kill you. I said, I told you. But she talks a lot of memories about old Jimmy Street and Cash. She loves Cash too.
She was Cash's unofficial, semi-official babysitter sometimes. So, I would drag him to the shows with me. And honestly, I always knew he was in good hands when Virginia was helping out with that. So I'll be forever indebted for that.
Yes, sir.
Well, Shane, I love you, bro.
Take care, man. Buddy. I love y'all guys. Thank you for keeping up the good work.
All right, buddy. Take care, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you, buddy.
We'll be right back to wrap things up with the Plastic Sheik after these messages.
Hey everyone, this is Shane from Insane Shane's World. I release wrestling figures of enhancement talent, mid-card wrestlers, and wrestlers that you never thought would have a figure available. So if you're interested in adding a really cool and rare figure to your collection, then don't hesitate to contact me at shamtheman73@gmail.com. That's SHAMtheman73@gmail.com. You can also join my Facebook group. Just search Insane Shane's World.
Oh man, Shane is so great. What'd I tell you, man? Shane's awesome.
Man, I hear you building him up, and I'm like, man, this guy can't be as awesome as you be saying, but no, he is. Maybe twice as awesome as you even put him out to be. So, he could have went on for days, I think, telling the stories, and we could have just listened all day like little kids. So. Oh,
totally. Shane is awesome. We'll definitely get him back on the show. That story about Gypsy Joe in Sweet Home Alabama, man, that was hilarious.
I felt like I was in the car with him when you were telling the story.
I know. Yeah, Shane's such a good dude. So appreciative of him coming on the show. Make sure to keep an eye out for Shane CWA, maybe coming soon. I know he's traded wrestling for whiskey. He actually works for Jack Daniel's distillery now. But, no matter how far you get out of wrestling, you're always involved. I guess that's why I'm doing 8 million podcasts now. But anyway, so, before we go, Jut, do you have anything you'd like to share with the show, Plastic Sheik? Anything spectacular?
I was just thinking, what did you, I know we're a little past Mania now, but what was your favorite match of Mania weekend?
Ooh, man. Favorite match? Seth Rollins, Logan Paul was really good. Logan waited too long to jump on the bottle of Prime. Rhea and Charlotte was cool, but I feel like Charlotte wasn't as into it. Or I don't know. Maybe she was acting. I couldn't tell. I mean,
sometimes I'm with you. I thought that match. I'll be honest with you though. I thought that match was one of the best women's matches I've ever seen.
Yeah, for sure. It was like a men's match.
Some of Charlotte's facials. Yeah. Maybe she wasn't into it. Maybe that's just her. Maybe that's just her get up. I know she was taking some time off after Mania. But I thought it was just hard hitting. It was physical.
Yeah. It was like a man's match. I was thinking if these were two men, this would be one of the greatest matches of all time. I mean,
you're serious, yeah. I like the tag match that main event in night one. I kind of knew what I figured would happen.
Yeah.
The Logan Paul and Press. It was good. There was a lot of good matches.
Shane McMahon joined the blown quad family,
Yeah, something with the McMahons and the Helmsley family.
You get your inheritance back, pal.
Yeah.
That was horrible, but you could tell he did a leapfrog, boom, busted quad. What are you going to do, man?
Yeah, I'm wondering where they're going with Cody and the whole Roman Reigns story. I'm wondering where they're going with all that.
On Sunday night, Dusty Rhodes, they did the A&E special, and there was a special scene that Cody actually said. He said, Dad would book for the chase. And he said something to that effect. It was so telling because honestly, it is exactly what I think is being booked here. So a lot of people were on Twitter saying, oh, this is stupid. I want my money back, la-di-da, cancel the Peacock, whatever. But, I do kind of think it was booked the way Dusty would book it. Now, would Dusty have wanted that to happen, or would he have wanted Cody to win? I don't know. It was almost too much. Cody's going to win. Cody's winning. It's a given. Cody's going to win. And man, I was frustrated by it. It pissed me off. I was a fan watching that match. I'm not this like smart guy to the business watching it. I was a mark watching it. I was a fan watching that match, so.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the one thing that maybe I could see why they didn't put Cody over there is the story really didn't feel like it had time to build.
Right.
Because
I agree.
Came back to Royal Rumble. It wasn't like he was saying, I'm going to go out and win this Rumble, and I'm going to go to Mania and take the title off Reigns. Yeah. He returned to Rumble. I mean, won it, and then I don't know. So I'm going to give him the shot on this storyline. We'll see.
Yeah. And then, of course, Brock turns on him, so it looks like they'll do a little feud that'll lead to Cody getting back with Roman eventually, maybe. Who knows? I don't know what that happened there. I don't know what happened with that, but I guess we'll see. It's trying to predict these things anymore. Of course, Vince, WWE sold to Endeavor, which owns UFC, so there's going to be a WWE UFC crossover event. No, I'm just kidding, but there's two companies that are two massive fight companies that are now under one umbrella. So we'll see how that goes, but maybe that'll be for another episode. We'll break that down, but y'all, thank you so much for listening in. Definitely appreciate y'all for checking out Mr. TNT Shane Morton. Like I said, my old buddy and friend, and I just appreciate it.
Oh man, I'm just so thankful to Shane for looking after you when you were in the business, and I'm thankful for him doing this interview for us and, sharing. Like I say, a lot of times people are so nice to us, and, they don't have to be, but they are. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And thank you again, Shane. We'll get you back on soon, brother. Like it always is, at GMBMPW on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Go subscribe to the YouTube, like, share, do all that good stuff. Also, if you got it in you, go check out the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. We got Ronnie Garvin and George Weingroff in one episode coming up this Monday. So don't miss that. Don't miss our next episode. What is it? We don't know, but it'll happen. And when it is, it'll be where it normally is. Thank y'all again. So for Shane Morton, Jared, Plastic Sheik Street, and myself, this is Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. See y'all next time.
Don't forget.
Fight with a Morton.
That's the whole plan. You better watch out.
I know. Better be careful.
With a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life. This has been a James Rock Street production.